It's the three, it's the dagger, it's the end of the road for the Atlanta Hawks, and it's on to the NBA Finals for the Milwaukee Bucks. For the first time since 1974, they're celebrating in Milwaukee. 118-107, Bucks win in 6. Here's the head coach, Mike Budenholzer.
Well, first, just congratulations to Atlanta. Coach McMillan, his players, hell of a season. Amazing. Yeah! It's sweet. These guys have put the work in all year. They deserve to go to the finals. I couldn't be more proud of them. I love coaching them, and we got more work to do.
Yes, the work continues, and the Bucks have not messed around this postseason with a chance to clinch. They're now 6-0 with a chance to wrap up playoff series under Coach Bud. Now, Mike Budenholzer himself now 9-2 in clinch opportunities. That's the second best mark all time, behind only Ty Lue. The Bucks have not won a title since 1971. This will be their first trip to the finals since 1974. Milwaukee fell to the Celtics in 7 games that year, anchored, of course, by Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Oscar Robertson in the final season of his Hall of Fame career. This finals means so much to both the Bucks and the Suns. No player on either team has ever won an NBA championship. Kevin, that stat is crazy to me. This marks the first NBA Finals where no players have previous rings since all the way back in 1977 when the Blazers played the Sixers. So now the Bucks have an opportunity to get some rings on those fingers. We now welcome in NBA analyst Tim Legler. And I want to start not about the start of the game or the finish of the game. It was about a third quarter by Khris Middleton, something that just was stunning to watch in this game. What did you think about that third quarter performance, Legs?
Yeah, he took over the game. I mean, look, the Milwaukee Bucks understand the pressure that will be associated with a Game 7 at home, and you get that sense. Phoenix went through the same thing. It's the last thing you want to experience because the pressure to make shots in that situation can be overwhelming for some guys. So Khris Middleton, I think, showed great killer instinct in that third quarter. When you look at this matchup, no, Trae Young clearly limited, no Giannis. Well, who's the next most proven offensive commodity in this series? Clearly, it's Khris Middleton, and then the next guy is probably Jrue Holiday, and then the next guy after that is probably Brook Lopez. So all of that talent on the part of the Milwaukee Bucks, that's what you're counting on if you're Mike Budenholzer. Somebody has to get hot. Khris Middleton was the most likely guy, and he showed an incredible aggressive instinct in that third quarter to basically end this game.
Yeah, so one player having the game of his life, the other just wasn't able to step up and really be healthy in the most important moment of his life. That's Trae Young. And you mentioned he was limited. He really just did not look 100% at any point in this game. What did you think about his performance and what he tried to do, at least in this game?
I give him a lot of credit for even going out there because the player himself knows more than anybody else what you really feel like when you're warming up before the game. And you know what percentage of yourself you're going to be. And he was just a small fraction of what he normally is. And for me, where I saw it early on, that means you're pushing off with that right foot. And you could just see, whenever he would go and get ready to go into that move and you're thinking he's going to let it fly, he would not want to go ahead and take that shot because he just couldn't get off the ground and he couldn't separate enough from the defender in his own mind to give himself clearance that he could get that shot off. He had some drives, had a couple of floaters, but the Bucks knew he was one-dimensional player. Once you knew that he was not going to be able to do damage from beyond the three-point line and you could just funnel him into the paint the entire game, it just changed everything for Trae Young's night. So you feel terrible for him. The year that he had, the postseason run that he had, to have his season basically end on a fluke injury where he steps on an official's foot, you feel sick for him, really, in this moment. But give him credit. He wanted to gut it out. He did not want to be sitting on the sideline in case this was his team's last game. He went out there. He gave it his all, Ashley, but he just was clearly just nowhere near what they needed him to be offensively. And I think it demoralized them a little bit as a group because they knew he was going to be out there, but he just wasn't the same guy. And as a result, they were ripe for the picking, and Khris Middleton took advantage of that.
Yeah, so much respect for him for really putting everything out there. Hockey tough, playing injured in the finals, you know what I mean? But just a great performance. This team has so much to be positive of. Legs, we'll talk to you a little bit later, but I do want to get to that and what this team has to look forward to because one team has to move on and the other going home. Plenty for this Hawks team to really be excited about. They made a coaching change with Nate McMillan halfway through, and they earned the 5 seed in the East. Then, after beating the Knicks and Sixers, they became just the 4th team in the past 40 seasons to make the Eastern Conference Finals with a midseason coaching replacement. So a lot to be excited about down.
Hello, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to First Take. It's Friday. Starters had 22 points or more last night for the Bucks, so that's something to be proud of. So, Freddie, let's start with you here. Should the series be over at this point?
I wanted to go Game 7, but I think it's going to end in 6 games because the Milwaukee Bucks, what they were able to do last night, and I don't want to be that prisoner of the moment, but if they play like that, the Atlanta Hawks have no chance of beating them, especially when we don't believe that Trae Young, at least I don't believe that Trae Young is going to be there for Game 6. He tried to give it a go before Game 5. That ankle is just not responding. That foot is just not responding. But this Milwaukee Bucks team, they played with an attitude last night. And here's something else why I believe this is going to be over in 6. There's that team called the Phoenix Suns that is getting pulled around. That's why I think this series is going to be over in 6. I want a Game 7 because I love Game 7s. But I think Milwaukee Bucks know that if we fool around, we may win this series, but we may not win the championship that we want to get to. And I think that's why they're going to put it away in 6 when Saturday night rolls around.
If you're the Milwaukee Bucks, Freddie, and you're looking ahead to an NBA final against the Phoenix Suns, you've already lost because you're not paying attention to the Atlanta Hawks going home in their own stadium. You know how jacked up Atlanta gonna be, whether Trae Young plays or not. They beat the Milwaukee Bucks without Trae Young in Game 4 at home when they had their top dog. I can't see no way possible that the Milwaukee Bucks can duplicate what they did last night in Game 5 again in Game 6 with all 4 of those guys and 5 of those guys stepping up to the plate. I can't see where Brook Lopez all of a sudden has 30-plus points. Yeah, Middleton may do well, but do you expect Jrue Holiday to drop 25 points to set the tone again? Do you expect for Bobby Portis to play the way that he did on the road in Atlanta against the Atlanta Hawks team led by Nate McMillan, who's going to make that 48-hour adjustment? He's just in front of him, paying attention to a team that can potentially have rest. Makes no sense at all.
I think they should be looking ahead because if you're the Milwaukee Bucks, why are you going to extend yourself when you can put an opponent away? Because the ultimate goal is to win a championship. And I know you got to go things in incremental steps. I clearly understand where you're coming from, Keyshawn. But if you're the Milwaukee Bucks, you got to say this, we got to put this team away in Game 6. Of course, no one's expecting Bobby Portis to have the Bobby Portis experience again like we saw in Game 5, what he was able to do for the Milwaukee Bucks. And by the way, Brook Lopez made me look pretty smart. I said yesterday the most important player was Brook Lopez of Milwaukee Bucks. He had 33 points. For the first time in Freddie Coleman's life, his soul taken away from him last night by Brook Lopez. That's not going to happen again, but I'm not expecting that the Bucks are going to come down that far and that the Hawks are going to raise their game that much up into Game 6.
Everything you just said, it's not going to happen. You don't expect for Brook Lopez to do this. You don't expect for them to do that. Then how are they going to win in Atlanta? Because I expect for the Atlanta Falcons to go back to the drawing board, make the necessary adjustments for Game 5. What did I say? The
Falcons?
I don't.
I'm in NFL mode too.
This is not the football team.
Falcons are making the adjustments.
Key, I'm in NFL mode too.
But when you think about it, I'm expecting the Hawks to go back to the drawing board with Nate McMillan and turn things around. You can't expect for them to play the same way, fall asleep at the wheel like they did in Milwaukee. I just don't see it in Atlanta, in a home stadium. I expected Milwaukee to play well. I didn't expect for some of the players to play as well as they did at home, but we all know that Khris Middleton had phenomenal games at home and out on the road. They're going back on the road again, and it's important, much like Nate McMillan said. It's a win or go home moment, and whenever you have a win or go home moment, that team at home usually rises to the occasion. The Milwaukee Bucks really have not blown out the Atlanta Hawks up until last night. Everything, for the most part, has been tight. They got away with one last night in terms of a blowout. For whatever reason, the Hawks didn't come to the party, but I anticipate that they come to the party again when they play at home in Atlanta and not in Falcon Stadium.
I know they're going to have some kind of freaknik going on with the Atlanta Hawks because of the holiday weekend and the barbecue on July 4th, but to bring some memory to your memory, the Bucks did beat the Hawks in Atlanta in Game 3, and Khris Middleton outscored them in a quarter. So they know they have the ability to go in their building and beat the Atlanta Hawks. You're right, Keyshawn. I'm not expecting that 4 guys going to be in double figures in the first half. but they may not need that because it's going to be a knockdown, drag-out battle. And also, by the way, we still don't know if Trae Young is going to play. Even without him or with him, the Bucks still a more talented team even without Giannis. That's why I believe that in a knockdown, drag-out game and with a potential elimination game that they're going to close out Game 6. I want to be wrong. I want a Game 7, but I don't think I'm going to be wrong. I think this series is over by Saturday night.
Okay, Freddie, so you sound very convicted. Do you think that the Bucks should sit Giannis regardless of how he's feeling in Game 6 to rest him up for the finals if you feel so confident?
It's not about rest, Charlie and Key. It's about you can play. Key will tell you this. You can play hurt, but you can't play injured. Giannis is injured. Trae Young is injured. Both of those guys, we're not talking about just being hurt and a little boo-boo. Giannis has a hyperextended left knee, and we don't even know how severe that injury is. But it's severe enough that you can't put him out there. He may want to be out there, but why are you going to put a player out there in a compromised position when he's injured? So it's not about should they sit Giannis. If he's not healthy, you can't play that guy. I don't care if he begs and borrows and tries to plead his way in the basketball court. You're not doing yourself any kind of favor by putting him out there and maybe even worsening an injury. So it's not about should the Bucks sit Giannis in Game 6. They have no choice because he's injured. He's not hurt. Same thing with Trae Young. You can't put those guys out there and then you make an injury even worse just because you're trying to win a series or trying to win a championship.
Giannis shouldn't play at all. I've had a hyperextended knee before, and it's not fun. It takes a while to come back from. It does not feel good at all. You have no stability there. It has a little wobble to it. And the way that he plays with the Euro steps and the different things that he does with that particular leg, I don't see him playing. I'm not a doctor. Dr. Johnson's not available right now. But yet and
He
still,
stepped out for the holiday
I
weekend.
certainly, Charlie, don't see where he'll be able to play. And even if he was able to get out on the floor, he wouldn't be the same. He would be compensating. And why further injure yourself, especially when you're the franchise player, just to try to get a victory?
Yeah, well, we want to see him have a speedy recovery because if the Bucks do advance, which, by the way, teams that have been tied 2-2 in a series, in the winner then of Game 5, 82% of the time usually goes on to win Game